What's going on, everybody? Good evening. Good evening.
Hello, hello.
Tonight's live stream is brought to you by Sonus Hearing Care Professionals in Harrisburg, Illinois. I think some of you will know of this wonderful business. Dr. Oldham, known to many as Dr. No, has aided in the Southern Illinois community in diagnosing hearing loss and providing intervention for hearing loss over the last decade, and continues to provide some of the best services and technology available today. Check out more about Sonus Hearing Care Professionals at sonusofharrisburg.com.
You may be wondering, why would we put that at the top of the hour? That is because Dr. Oldham is one of the people that has believed in us and has partnered with us in order to help us. We have some announcements that we're going to be making tonight about where Caleb and I have been recently and what we've been up to. And it was because of Dr. Oldham's generosity and the generosity of a few others that we were able to make it happen. And so very big shout out to Sonus of Harrisburg for helping us to be able to get where we are today.
And we're going to be doing some of these kinds of sponsorships just at the beginning, at the top of the hour before we get into the updates. Really appreciate that family and everything that Nick, Dr. Oldham has. Yeah, Dr. No, that's what I'm talking about, Steve. He's sponsoring us and moving us down the road a little bit. So we appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much.
So Caleb, we didn't get an opportunity in the last one. We were right on top of it. We had people coming in, coming out. I'm excited about this one tonight because we're going to get a chance to sort of interview one another a little bit and hear a little bit more from you and from myself on exactly what it is that we're trying to accomplish. But I wanted to actually start tonight asking you to sort of walk us through Twinbolt. Where did the name come from? What does it mean? And what is Twinbolt Media trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so I mean, I think many have heard the story. We were in 2019. I was running a very, I think, prolific, successful wedding business in State College, Pennsylvania. I was doing about 30 weddings a year, just supplemental income type of stuff. And my wife and I started feeling this sort of just nudge to take 2020 and take a break. We'd been so busy. We'd had both of our children at that point. We had a baby and a 2-year-old, and man, it just felt like God was asking us to sort of go into a time of reprieve and rest. And it turned out that my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer just at the end of 2019, and we also entered into 2020, which was the pandemic. And it was a really stressful, heartbreaking sort of desert season of my life where I felt like God was asking me to submit to him and to suffer a little bit and to do that well with my family and with my wife. And as she was starting chemo, just being present, but also I was just sort of locked off. We're both extroverts. We both love being around people. And I remember just sitting and watching The Chosen, the first episode of The Chosen, out in the back room. I just randomly heard about it, and I was like, I'm going to give this Bible Jesus project thing a shot in the dark. I mean, just very little hope, very little interest or actual intrigue. And it was quite impressive just how quickly it grabbed my attention. And I just remember laying on the back couch and the lights were off, and Jesus at the very end of that episode just calls Mary and says, "I have chosen you, and I know you, and you are mine." And that moment I just blew up, just started weeping and crying. And I called Kyler and was like, "Dude, like, you've got to watch this. There's something in that moment that took me off of this season that I was in." And I started getting really excited for, to talk to you about it, to say, hey, man, life is so short, man. It feels like if there's anything that I would regret, it would be that you and I didn't try and do a project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I remember that call. I also remember whenever you surprised me. You drove through the middle of the day. It was dark outside. I'm living in a 3-story apartment complex in a kind of rougher area of Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm taking the trash out, and all of a sudden I hear at the top of a full-grown man's lungs, shouted,
Mary Magdalene!
Mary of Magdalene, I've called you by name. I didn't know it was Caleb. He had hidden his voice.
I had a scarf. I had a scarf wrapped around my face too, so I was just standing out in the snow.
Like,
it was
yeah,
8
like
hours
yelling.
away. I drove and scared the
yeah, but to my benefit, how did I respond? You remember?
Oh, you were like, "What's going on here?" And
I just kept walking
I
because
called you. I called your wife ahead of time. She had waited to take the garbage out so that you would have a reason to go outside, so I could scare the daylight out of you.
so that's something that I don't know if the Chosen is using that or not, but they should jump on that. Just having people scare people with not scary Chosen quotes, have them sort of usurp that. Yeah, it had a huge. Oh, go ahead.
It started off this thing, I think, in both of us where, you're a teacher, you do creative writing, you've written a couple of kind of like fantasy fiction novels. I'm working full-fledged in marketing for the university here in State College, Penn State University. And we saw this, and I think the first time in our life, we kind of went, oh, man, maybe Christian media can be good. Like maybe there's actually something to this that can cause people to be stirred in their faith. And I'd never seen that or experienced that before.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think there are definitely moments throughout that really inspired. And one of the really cool things was, I think both you and I feeling like, let's inspire others. Like, let's keep this going. Like, whenever Christians rise up and whenever they make excellent content that's high quality and they don't sort of go to a low standard in order to be able to create, I think it really does cause this sort of, okay, I can put my head up. I can be proud that I'm a Christian creative, and I can even create inside of the world of the Bible, which kind of leads us sort of into the next thing, which is making that first project and what that was like. I don't think we necessarily need to go too much like into the nitty gritty, but just kind of a surface level of what it was like to create the 10th. And so you could talk a little bit through that process, Caleb.
Man, well, we jumped right in. We had that phone call, and it was like, man, we got nowhere to go. There's nowhere to be. No one telling us we got to be somewhere, and we're literally going to church via Zoom. We're not leaving the house. I wasn't leaving the house. We were washing our bananas on the front porch. Man, we were like, we were doing everything we could to keep the family safe, and we just started writing projects, and I remember we wrote 3 project weeks, Gene, I agree. We're better together. Absolutely. I'm so thankful that season has passed and I'm able to actually integrate back into society and kind of connect with people. For me, I think it was, we started writing these projects, and the first thing we wrote was a project based on the life of David leading up to that point where he's going to be anointed. And the more we wrote, the more we felt like, man, this has got to have this in it, and it's got to have this. And next thing you know, it's got like 30 actors in it. It's going to require a crew of like 30 people. We need a giant farm. We need sheep. We need hillsides. And it's just like, thanks, Steve. We need bananas. We need this to sort of come together. And we were like, man, we don't have the finances for this. And I think it opened our eyes. We were like, let's write something that we can finance, something that we can pull together a little bit of money. And it became this passion project of, man, there were so many restrictions and requirements. It was a really fun kind of test of our creative ability of like, how can we tell this full-fledged story, 25-minute short film in the context of a single room. And we both love The Prince of Egypt so much. Like, just, man, we go back to that and just
Major
cry.
fans.
We just watch it over and over and over. And so for us, that story of Moses just was an impactful one. And so, Kyler, I think you were the first hand really on paper writing these characters and things. And we started a couple years out and eventually got down the road and built a set in a giant pole barn that my pastor let us jump into. Just prayed to God that the cows outside would stop mooing loud enough that we could catch some lines here and there.
That is something that is definitely understated about cows is those bad boys are loud.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like you to be, they don't like you to be filming around them. They hear the shutters running and the film start up. I don't know how film equipment works. I'm not the one that runs that, but I just definitely sold myself.
They don't have gates anymore. There's no shutter.
Oh, okay. You know.
Is that how we filmed
it? So talk to me a little bit, Caleb. You know, we start Twinbolt through doing this short film, and then we have this opportunity. We actually reached out to by someone that says this is a really incredible piece of work. I was really inspired by it. You guys should submit this to a film festival. And so literally on that recommendation, there was a list of 5 festivals that the person recommended to us. We just chose the biggest one. And we kind of said, you know what, we'll send it here. Maybe it'll be shown. We did not know whenever we sent it in that there were awards. We didn't know that there were nominations. We didn't know any of that. All we knew
we just wanted the short film to be played at the festival. That was it.
We thought, hey, this would be cool if 5 people are sitting in a room and get to watch the short film. And that was reason enough to send it in and say, hey, we did this. And in fact, Caleb was kind of a little bit frustrated with me. I mean, just kind of a little look behind the curtain. He's going, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? And I'm like, who knows? Maybe it'll be played at this film festival and it'll be great. And then my brother called me. I'm at school. I'm a teacher. And he starts telling me the different nominations. Do you want to go through the list, Caleb, real quick?
Yeah. So we were selected, which means, hey, our short film got to play at the festival. That was incredible. But then we got nominations for Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Short Film, and Best Directors, which means, you know, for the largest categories, we kind of landed a nomination in every category. Completely unexpected. And in fact, I was so hyped and just jazzed, man, that Roman and Sarah got nominated. I didn't even see the director's nomination. And so that was like hours later, you sent me a message like, hey, did you realize we got nominated? And so it was just this incredible situation where, okay, now what do we do, right? Like, you know, it was this really tough process of trying to figure out, like, okay, are we actually going to Florida? And Roman, our actor, called us and was like, man, I'm nominated. I'm going to go. And we're like, we got to go now. You know, we ended up going and we made some great connections. I'm still texting and calling some of the guys that we, you know, met while we were down there. We got some awards, got some nominations. Not what this was about to begin with. This was just about you and I sort of pushing out of our comfort zones. It was about, man, let's try and tell like real impactful, like epic stories that we feel like are focused on people, focused on story, and you know, connecting.
Absolutely. And one of the things that kind of was a pretty big shocker for me was the moment where we stepped out from being on stage after Roman had won the Best Lead Actor, which was shocking because he was up against some tremendous talent. And to think, whoa, we created this character that went on to create this opportunity for this actor. And we stepped out in the hallway and there's this gauntlet of people wanting interviews. He's signing things. People are asking, and we're like, wait,
I'll have to post that video next time. I actually videoed him doing his first
signature. Yeah. That was a really incredible moment to watch him kind of walk into that and to get to say, yeah, all this work kind of came due. But one of the things that I did also want to talk about is we're trying to create a little bit more of a following because we're about a year out from doing a larger project that we're going to talk about tonight. So we're not going to cause you guys to hang around too long and not give you those details. We want to talk about it. But in terms of social media and in terms of what do we need help with inside of the Twinbolt page, if you could give us a couple things, I'll talk through a couple things, but give us some directives, Director.
Yeah, so we're going to be landing on exactly how we're going to campaign and fundraise for our David project, and that's something we're still navigating on the back end as far as like taxability and how we're going to work with every couple of words freezing or dropping. Interesting. Okay, thank you for that, Steve. So we really are working on exactly how we're going to fundraise. But in the meantime, if you see content that you like, if you see that we're doing an event, anything like that, if you share it, that's good. But if you share with a comment above it, like, hey, I know these guys, or hey, this is Caleb and Kylie Cook, I highly recommend you guys look at this content or something. The comment itself actually helps the algorithm. So we are looking for a little bit more than just a share, but also tell people, like call them on the phone, have conversations, tell them about, these boys from Southern Illinois that are just trying to shoot their shot and bring a story about David to life. I think personal interactions, one-on-ones, that is the first and foremost part of what we could ask people. And if you like things, please tell us you like it, comment, and follow us on Instagram. We're going live on YouTube right now as well as Facebook. We've got all of those paths and avenues.
Awesome. One thing that I would say to be able to help as well, if we post content such as a picture or such as a video and things like that, one of the best things that you can do is actually save the image and repost it. Because whenever you hit the share button, one of the things that Facebook really likes is for companies or for businesses or for like for our production company, they really like for you to pay for ads and for things like that. And so
we'll get there. We'll get there. I said we'll get there. We'll get
for sure
here in a couple of weeks.
For sure, absolutely. But at this point right now, it's kind of like Facebook recognizes that. And sometimes whenever you share, you'll notice you'll share a picture on your maybe of like your cat or something, and it'll get like 30 likes during the day. But then whenever you share something from Twinbolt Media, it gets 1 or 2. That's because the system is recognizing that is a share from a business or from a production company, and it's drastically limiting the reach inside of your friend group. So again, best case scenario would be take that, make it your own, put it on your own page, and that would greatly help direct a little bit of traffic as we're trying to get things started on our end. So we have an update for the 10th. Caleb, if you could walk us through where is the 10th now? We had this short film that came out, it won some awards. What's going on with it now?
So we have successfully shared all of the content over to Redeem TV, and just got off the phone with Bill Curtis today, and he said that he's really looking forward to getting this content posted on Redeem TV as early as mid-August to just around late August. That's going to help us kind of campaign fundraise. So that is going to be in the free portion of Redeem TV. If you don't have an account, go over to redeemtv.com and sign up for an account. It's donation only. If there is certain content that you'd like, you want to donate, you can do that. It's not mandatory. But then also, Redeem TV is owned by Vision Video. And so Vision Video has, as you can see, nearly 1 million subscribers, and the short film is going to get posted on Vision Video's YouTube channel as well. And so this really is going to be the beginning of us starting to develop our audience. Like, who's our what's our audience? The Twinboltites, the Twinboltians, whatever it is, that's kind of hey, Mark Pulio. Hey,
thank you, Josh. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, if you guys could do that, that's great.
Yep. So the short film is going to be out in a perfect time, right mid-August. We've got some other announcements that we're going to be announcing here in just a second, but that's going to be the perfect time for that to be out, so that you could tell people about it, get on redeemtv.com, and kind of just share about what we're doing.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I'll say this. So our short film is there, and to be super transparent with everybody, because we're trying to really create a system and a structure where any kind of money that's coming in or any kind of situation where Twinbolt is making progress, we want to share that because it's exciting, but it also is getting us closer to our goal to making our next project, which we're hoping to do next summer. We are paid by the watch. So whenever you go over to the 10th and you play that, there's a system that registers and it basically says, here's how long people are watching it. Here's how many times it's clicked. My brother and I receive royalties on those plays. But the cool thing is my brother and I are not taking profit off of those royalties. Everything that comes in is turned over into the next project. And so I want everyone to know sort of the system and the structure here is kind of a snowball that we're trying to build. The hope is that we would be able to move towards making this next project in the summer coming up. And then after that, due to the snowball starting to build, it would be easier and easier for us to be able to make the following project if that is what Jesus would continue to ask us to do, which is something that my brother and I are really praying through. And speaking of praying through and what Jesus wants us to do, talk to me a little bit about this last weekend, Caleb Michael.
Yep. So we posted some stuff out on Instagram, on Facebook. I think you guys kind of saw we were walking around a farm. We were on the set of David, A King's Calling. Got to talk to the farmer and his wife out there a little bit, and got to record some material we're going to be putting together for the campaign fundraiser, just out on the land, getting to see where we're actually going to film David, A King's Calling. As well, that evening, we hired a young actor to come in, sort of model for us. And, you started to see just a little bit of that. And I got to admit, we're getting some interesting comments from some folks that think they understand what's going on. And I would be really surprised if you can guess, because, we are going to take a extremely epic fantasy approach to this. And so anytime that you are reading in the Bible and you see that there's a vision or a dream being had, I mean, really, it's an open playground as far as visuals. You think Marvel, you think like DC Comics. We're going to really take those things to the extreme. And I'm really excited to present just a still that we've created from the shoot last weekend. We'll kind of talk a little bit about that. And so do you want to present the graphic, Kyler, that we've been working on? This is the first.
Yeah, I want to say up front that I had nothing to do with this picture. I was there while I was having shot. This is the creative genius of my brother, Caleb. He's incredible. And so, Caleb, let's reveal this graphic and then maybe talk about it a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. We're coming out the gate swinging.
There was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So here's the nitty gritty.
I'm gonna pull it up just in its still format. It's probably gonna cover your face, Kyler. Don't be offended.
Okay. Do you want me to move? Okay. Oh, yeah. Can you still hear me?
We can still hear you.
Wish I looked that good. So whenever my brother and I were talking about creating David and bringing him to the screen, hey, how's it going? I'm gonna come over here. Whenever we were talking about bringing David to life, one of the things that we were really focused on is not making him some kind of, like plucky teenager that's kind of there's always a boyishness to David, which is fine. He certainly is a boy. But we have to remember being 13, 14, 15, and we're talking thousands of years ago. Life was not easy. A lot of these young men were forced to grow up quickly. The kind of person that he was, or the kind of person that he would have been, is probably different than, let's say, a 14, 15-year-old, which is roughly the age that we have David in our project. It's different. It's entirely different. The things that he would have experienced by this point are different. And so one of the things that my brother and I are very excited to do is to bring David to life in a way that's kind of like a hero origin story. We are aware of Spider-Man and Peter Parker and being bit by the spider and this sort of process to become this character that protects and saves people and does what's right. We're doing the same with David. There's a path that's going to lead David to become what God has called him to be. And the cool thing is that we know from the sort of outset, people don't see it. They don't see it in David. But there is a point, and we're hoping to be able to slate this to where we can do projects and get there. There is a point where there is no doubt in anyone's mind that David is a monster killer. He's a warrior, and he is the king that God has set apart to really make much of God and to glorify his name. And so let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the picture, if you can, maybe without doing a whole bunch of spoilers.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to tell right off the bat, I think we wanted to just like hit the ground running, right? We know already, if it was anything like me the first time I was watching The Chosen, it was like such limited hope that this is actually going to be something that I can appreciate. And man, did it just grab me right away. And so that's what we're looking at. First 5 minutes, you know, what we're seeing here is Samuel, the prophet. He's having this dream. He's sitting in this tent and he's rolling over and he's sweating and you know, he keeps cutting to this dream where he's alone in this woods and God is just wrecking him with his presence and he's seeing his friend King Saul at that time. Essentially God is removing and visually he just sees King Saul catch on fire and fall over, and his crown comes rolling off of him and turns to ash. And God starts to speak to Samuel that he's chosen another king. And Samuel is just in this intense warfare in this moment with God. And he looks up and he sees a boy start to step forward. And in front of him, this corridor of trees, we see Goliath, sort of a shadowy figure. And,
Goliath!
And as David is stepping forward, a crown just falls kind of from the sky, lights on fire, and the sword falls. And this is not a figurative sword of this time or a figurative crown of this time. This is a godly presentation of sort of this new calling for this young boy. Samuel can't quite make out who it is. You know, a lot of heat distortion, ashes. You know, all he knows is Israel is on the brink of burning down from the enemies of the Philistines coming to kill them. And then there's this boy who, man, he's just got something different about him. You know, he's showing up and he's ready to fight. And this is right off the bat. We're going to hit you with this in the first episode. This scene right here where we see David, where it's kind of like Kyler was saying, it's a hero origin story. This project, this entire series of like this television show is geared towards young men and young women, I think, who have never given you know, a Christian or religious project a shot or a hope that it could be good at all. We really want to entice that audience that, you know, you would see going out, watching the Marvel films, watching the DC films, and giving really the Bible, I think, credit where credit is due, where it's the original book that told these incredible stories where his story is filled with miraculous just strength and intelligence and just overwhelming ability, just randomly that God put his spirit on David. You can kind of see that a little bit in the eyes here. Kyler and I have been talking about this, like just sometimes when God's calling him to this like elevated moment in his life that we see his eyes kind of glow just a little bit gold, where man, he's sort of, he's getting up there, you know. It's going to be incredible.
Yep. We have a question. Will 1 Samuel 18:27 be in the show? I'm a terrible Christian, I guess, because I don't have that memorized. Or David arose, he and his men, and slew the Philistines 200 men, and David brought
That sounds like that's season 2.
You made me read it out loud on the live stream, Mark. You got me. No, we'll probably not be doing the old slewing of the 200 Philistines in our particular
project. But it's
project.
a good point. Can I make a statement here really quick?
Yeah, go ahead for it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Man, we want to slow things way down. Not that the show itself is going to be slow and it's going to drag. No, we're going to look at David over 8 episodes, the 8th episode being his slaying Goliath, right? And
Yep.
so we have so much content to build relationships with these characters, the brothers, the sisters, the Philistine armies,
Wait, the
gathering outside.
sisters, the sisters, isn't that extra biblical? What? The sisters, talk a little bit about that.
David had
Yeah.
sisters. Yes, David had sisters, and they were probably fed up with the boys' crap, and they were probably they probably were strong and smart and intelligent and could sing and probably push David and the other brothers. I think
We have a
Josh.
question from Josh up in the top. Sorry if I missed it. Is this going to be the actor for David? Josh, excellent question. Thank you for commenting and asking. We are going to do an open audition for David. We're going to be reaching out to professional SAG actors. The person that you're seeing in the image there is a person that we hired as a model. He's a student at State College, Pennsylvania. We do have him in mind, and I will say this: he showed up and he took direction super well. And would be really excited to portray this part. But we do want to open it up and have a casting round. Obviously, he pulled it off well, and we would like to hear from you guys. Do you think that this actor pulls it off? Is this what you imagine? There's an animated version of David that's coming out soon, and it's striking how similar this character is, or this actor is to the animated version.
We saw him, and I think there was definitely some excitement of like, he's going in as a freshman in college, 18 years old, a younger guy who is in musical theater, and he also does boxing and martial arts, and it's really incredible to find somebody that sort of fits that mold. It is a very
does Muay Thai, and he's a musical theater major.
Yeah.
And this is a person that we have possibly performing the role. We're really, really excited to have him on. I want to talk just a little bit about what we're trying to do with this project and why maybe it looks a little bit different than what you would imagine. A lot of renditions of David that have been done in the past start with him sort of chilling with the sheep, which we will see some of that certainly. But one of the things that always happens is it's kind of like he's taken off of this farm. He's walked out. He goes up. He puts on the armor that belongs to Saul, and then he just goes up and he kills Goliath, and everyone cheers. And I think if you're like Caleb and I, you emotionally feel just a little bit. You're kind of like, oh, that's cool, maybe, but there's an emotional flatness to it. One of the reasons that feels so flat. I'm so gonna say it. Yes, we would have loved to have done that for them for several $1 million.
Oh my gosh! Just give us the money. Just give us the chance.
Back to David, though. Whenever you take his story and you give him time to really grow, to really develop, to really show us with him training, show us him making mistakes, show us the inner, what if I miss? What if David sometimes isn't perfect with his aim? We'll discover that in the project as well. We're really looking at some of the things that make this moment where he steps up and he kills Goliath. Yeah. Spoiler alert, if you've not.
I want to cut in there too. I mean, we got 8 episodes to play with where we've already written the entire story arc of the season, where that moment where David kills Goliath, that is supposed to be so insanely like wonderful and beautiful.
It's going to be huge.
So emotional. But if you don't know the characters, if you don't know Eliab, the oldest brother that is just beating his back against the wall, just trying to figure out like how he can make a name for himself. And I'm gonna go to war. I'm gonna be the warrior,
Abinadab, who's brilliant, but he's kind of a little bit of a coward whenever it comes down to it. Shammah, who's always making jokes. I don't know anything about that. Who's always joking, but it's kind of to hide a little bit of his inward fear of people.
You've got the tribes of Israel that are still being solidified and united under King Saul, that they were at war with one another. And then you got these Philistines coming in and putting pressure on and terrifying the people of Israel. They're all wanting to go back towards Egypt probably. You've also got, and David's talking to Saul but right before he goes down to kill Goliath, and he says, "I killed a bear with my hands. I killed a lion with my hands." Like, let's see some of that. He plays the harp for King Saul, and has this ability to like cast demons out of King Saul that is just writhing in pain. And David has this ability to sing and play music. Like, all of the, where did he learn how to play? What did he have that God saw in him? And I think it's going to take 8 1-hour episodes to get us to that moment where he kills Goliath, where everybody can see what God was trying to say in that moment. And also how he was using this prophet Samuel, right?
Yeah.
This incredible man who was devoted to the synagogue, or the God's people in the church since he was born. His mother had made this oath of, if you'll let me have a baby, then I'll give it to you forever. And so this man has never known what it was like not to completely serve. And so God's using this really cool power and authority through Samuel. And so we've got some really fun moments there that I think that is just going to blow people's minds.
So to talk a little bit more about that sort of hero origin story, we know from reading the Bible that, let's say, for example, in the character of Jesus, that if we had everything written down that Jesus did, that no book would be able to contain, literally the binding would break. So the things that are written down aren't historically all the things that Jesus did. In the same way, there are many, many ways that we can add to, not embellish, but add to some of these characters and some of the things that they may have done in a believable way. And this is something we're excited to bring to life with Samuel. Samuel is the only person that is interacting with the unfiltered presence of God continuously. And he's in a place where, there are things that he knows that he shouldn't know. There are moments where God is whispering to him and he knows things before they happen. God gives him, it's almost like split-second visions that can last a full minute, where he sees things that are to come. It's kind of like, Doctor Strange in Avengers Endgame, where he sees all the circumstances play out. And so some things seem like, I don't want to give too much away here, some things seem like David is really cool and really brave and really on it, when in actuality we find out that maybe God is sovereign and maybe God is leading things to be happening behind the scenes, so that sort of one of the movies that are really amazing to Caleb and I are the Oceans 11, 12, and Oceans 13, maybe. The heist movies, where you kind of get a recap at the end, where you see all of the things playing out and you go, oh, there was something else going on that we didn't quite see. And
these are a lot of talented individuals that are pulling this off. Like, you know, and God's inspiration, his power and authority, his presence, are different things where it talks about David experienced a closeness with God, and it says, and God's presence never left David from that day forward. He's anointed by God through the prophet Samuel, and then he has to wait like 20 years before he's actually able to
now 15
receive kingship. That's another thing. Anytime you've seen David in any Christian project, it's like they run through his childhood and they do that swift transition of him as a child, and then it's him as a crossfade, he's now an adult, and it's like, oh, it's okay that you do that, but there is so much rich soil here to look at this character.
I love what Ralph said up here. He said, not one word fell to the ground that Samuel spoke. And one of the really cool things about this is that whenever we look at a character like Samuel or a character like David, I think what often happens is we have generally extremely kind of uncharismatic, very plain. It's kind of, people that look upward, because for some reason that's always where God's voice comes from. But what if the planet is spinning? Does that mean heaven's always, it's kind of confusing. Well, we have Samuel hearing God from different directions in different ways, because God is a God of creativity. And so Samuel has become so adept at sensing the presence of God that he actually knows God is close before he speaks. And so no matter what way God intends to speak to Samuel in order to direct David or in order to lead him. We kind of get to see Samuel in the midst of experiencing God in a way that we believe has not been brought to a movie or a TV screen yet. So we're very excited about that.
Mm-hmm. And Kyler, question that I have is why do you think we are the people to bring this to life? Like why are we the ones that are set up to do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't necessarily think there's anything special about us. I don't think there's anything set apart about us. I don't think that there's anything about us that would qualify us other than our love for really high quality entertainment, and first and foremost our love for the Bible. My middle name is David. I've always related to the character. I've always some of you don't know me personally or Caleb personally, but we train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We play music. We were competitive performers in college. For a time, both of us did musical stand-up comedy together. And I think the tendency is for Christians to always go, oh, I want to be just like David, or I see myself in David. It's not supposed to be that way. David is supposed to point forward to Christ that is to come. So if you're seeing yourself in David, you're reading the Bible incorrectly. You're not the one that kills the giant. Jesus is, And so I think it's also a theological understanding that gives us a shot. I'm not saying we're going to do it perfect, or I think we're going to do it the best, and maybe that's a little pride. But I think whenever you take this story and you give it the honor that it's due, I can't believe, I told my brother when we were planning it, I can't believe, thanks, Jamie, threw me off. I can't believe it's not been done. I can't believe we've not seen an accurate, epic, honest, gritty representation with how much people love shows like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or the Marvel movies. I can't believe we've not taken a hero of Christian and Jewish myth and brought it to life in an appropriate way. And so in one part, it's kind of opportunistic, I think, where we're going, we got to do this because it's not been done, or at least it's not been done like we would do it. Right. But I'll pass the question back to you. What do you think? Why do you think us, of all people, to do this project?
Yeah, I mean, so we've got like 19 brothers, I'll just start there. Like we grew up with a lot of brothers. There was no women anywhere in sight except for mom. And, I think there's something about David and just having so many brothers that we really understand the humor of that. Man, just the sweaty fart jokes and the just incredible like camaraderie that is lots of brothers. I feel like we're going to be able to, hey, Josh, I feel like we're going to be able to bring that way that I wonder if others could they really understand what it's like to grow up where you love each other, but also, man, sometimes, Kyler, there's times where if you stepped close enough, I would have killed you with that shovel. I was swinging that shovel, and Kyler was going to tackle me to the ground, and we loved each other, but could have killed each other on multiple occasions. Yet here we are, God's grace and mercy, having this conversation. And I think that it feels like a time where, man, we're starting to make connections, starting to meet people that can aid and help. And, we're getting music that's being put down that feels like, wow, this feels like something else. This feels like something otherworldly. It feels like something that's kind of grabbed us as much as we grabbed it. And as we've been writing and playing with this, I just feel like, that it wouldn't be made would be just a huge shame,
Yeah. What kind of weight do you feel involved with bringing the character of David to life? Do you feel any kind of like fear or worry? What kind of gravity do you feel thinking about bringing him to life? Because our previous project, they're both created characters with no real mythos.
Yeah. I think it's very important. We are working with some historians to look at the script. I had an old pastor that I love very much who recommended a very detailed book on David that I read through, just scouring the Bible, trying to understand the character. I don't feel so much worry or stress as far as like, can we get it wrong? Because it's going to be an interpretation, and then it's going to be, hey, you go to the Bible and read what it says about this character. But as I look at this design, I feel like we have already done it more justice than maybe what I've ever seen before to this point,
I
which
agree.
is this gritty, adventurous fantasy, where God is essentially the one creating this Hobbit story and pulling him out of the Shire and saying, I'm gonna lead you down this path, and you're gonna become a mercenary and a warrior and a poet and a king. You're gonna be just, and you're gonna make mistakes, but really focusing on this boy just for a whole season. I think, man, we get to have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Josh. It's important to hear the consideration from everyone that's in the community and from family and friends, just pushing us on to do it, because it's already been a lot of work, but the work ahead is going to be an uphill battle. I don't think my brother and I recognized or realized even before we did the short film what kind of processes was going to be, how hard it was going to be. There are moments where it's you have to have a 12, 14, 16-hour day in order to be able to pull off some of the stuff. But we also feel a tremendous amount of confidence, going kind of to what you're saying there, tremendous amount of confidence that the industry, whenever they're trying to think about these characters, there's so many hoops for them to jump through that you don't get a specific style or a specific vision. A lot of times there's 7, 8, 9 people that have a say on the way that people say things, on the look of things, on what happens in the movie. And the really wonderful thing about doing what we're doing at the level that we're doing it is that every decision runs through Caleb and I. And if we go, this is really cool, we're doing it. And if we go, I don't know about this, then we get to go, well, we're just going to cut it. It doesn't work, right? In the ultimate grand scheme of things, I think that's the big thing, is having a concise vision. And Caleb could talk more about that.
I just want to say this. Steve said, if the series is as good as the graphic, we got a winner here. So I showed this earlier. I'll show it again. We set out and got 2 hours of green screen footage of David doing some different stuff in front of a green screen. I just took a couple photos real quick. That's where we got our graphic I showed you. I will be putting the next 2 to 3 weeks in on this formal promotional art that's going to show this tone. It's going to show, we're working with CK Martin, Cody Martin, to develop some music just specifically for this. We worked with a worship leader who's developed a song that we really feel like is going to embody this story. And the truth is, I just reading Kyler's script, there was 3 times where I just had that almost the chosen moment where I just like curled over, put my head down on my table and just wept for like 5 minutes, just thinking, like, it feels like it does so much justice for these moments and these characters that I've never really seen brought to life before. And this relationship, there's this moment in the script between Samuel and David, Steve, where Samuel is essentially, he's anointed David, and they go out on the hillside out by a campfire away from the family, and David starts to ask these questions of like, what's going to happen next? Like, what's this going to be? And he asks Samuel, is it going to get any easier? And Kyler's, I just love the direction for it, that this character Samuel smiling, just the firelight flickering in his eyes, and he nods and goes, no, just no. It's not going to get easier. This is going to get way harder. Like, following God is filled with valleys, and it's filled with these intense moments, and it's beautiful, and it's so hard sometimes. Like, I think that's what, like, that is the essence of Christianity and of faith that I feel like is so needed in our storytelling. It is, having directors, having writers, having people who are passionate about God in control of what's happening, and then people who have really high standards as far as when we're working with an actor, that Kyler and I are like, oh, the prophet is supposed to be shaking and can't raise his head up. Yep, we're gonna need your face in the dirt here. No, like actually yeah, you're shaking. Yeah, and the intensity of that moment and catching that on camera, I think we're gonna have. I think if the graphic does anything, it's only just the beginning of telling this story.
Yep. And so, if there's any question about what we're attempting to do.
Do you guys want to open up for questions? We got 5 minutes, Kyler. Do you want to try
Sure.
and nail down some questions
Yep.
from folks?
We already answered Mark Pulio's question. There will be no chipper chopping in our first episode. We'll save that for episode 3. To that point, what about David playing music? Where did he learn it from? What kind of music did they play in the house? Where does his dad play the harp? Does his mom play the harp? Lots of questions to be able to explore, to be able to look at the different characters and the relationships, and they hear about the Philistines coming and what does that mean for them, So there's a lot of room to play with characters. We're going to be doing some real characters, some characters that we've invented and created. I'm really excited, by the way, I was telling my brother, I really like random one-off characters that don't really have any purpose to the overall thing. And so I want to portray a goat salesman at some point. At some point in the 8 episodes, I'm going to be in the background selling a goat. I've decided, and what's going to happen is whether you're in Israel or in the Philistine encampment, this guy just changes his beard out and he's selling a goat wherever he is. You're like, isn't that the goat? So that's what my hope.
Yeah.
Josh has got a real question though.
When are you aiming to start filming? Next July, 1 year from right now. We would love to be filming for 5 to 6 days in central Pennsylvania. As I've said, we have this incredible, just wonderful farmer who is a Christian man who's got 400 head of sheep, and he's just tell me where to plant what you need, and I'll move the herd around for you. And he's just excited to have us a part of it. I don't think he knows that we're going to be literally coming in with semis and, porta potties yet, but we'll deal with that as we get closer
sheep,
to
semis, and porta potties, the stuff of dreams. We're bringing it to life. Music. Will you be using background thematic music? You have to, and this is something that's so integral to the feel of the piece. I mean, you can't watch anything, whenever you look at things like, yeah, that's it. Whenever you look at people, it's John Williams, correct, Caleb, the really famous composer. Man, you feel his music. You feel in everything that he does. And we have a guy, and it's no joke, that has an ability to create and to make that feel happen. And so one of the cool things, though, that we're going to play around a little bit with is, this is taking place in Africa. And a lot of times people forget that because it's been so Western Europeanized. That's definitely not a verb. It's been taken and it's been kind of messed with over the time that people have brought David to life. He's always a white kid. He's always got blue hair and blonde eyes. And then you have, a whole bunch of real Western European vibes. My brother and I are interested in taking the African element and adding it back in and saying, what about drumming? What about, even how we have kind of like hip hop and things like that, where if you look at the music element will be closer to Black Panther than it will be to some form of like 1980s Bible project. And so, and that's because we're trying to be as accurate as possible, both with the representation and with the music element. So excellent question. We want to try to do this justice.
Yeah, and we got a message, not Africa. I was going to say that, Kyler. It's from the Middle East, but it is very close to Africa.
It's not Northeast Africa. Interesting. Didn't know that. Learning.
Yeah, so I think the goal here is to try and create something that has its own world vibe. And the music, I think, is going to be music that we're reusing throughout the entire, the entire project, from the first episode to the last episode. We want that layer to play through, that golden thread of, you hear this music. I love how The Chosen does it. Anytime you hear that Middle Eastern woman start to come in and sing, something crazy is about to happen.
Holy Spirit's about to do it.
You on your knees. Yeah. Like I think that there is this, like this element to the music that's so important. And that you got people that look like they could have been the people in that time. And that's not a distracting, sort of function or feature. We did just hit over the 1 hour mark. I want to be sensitive to people's time. If there's
Let's answer this last question before we go. How graphic do you guys think you'll have this be? We keep referring to grit. Does grit mean graphic? What does that mean for the average viewer? I think that's an excellent question. This is Joseph Watson right here asking this question. Here's the truth. Whenever you have some kind of grit and graphicness in literature, there's a natural filter because it's going through your mind, right? So whenever you have David cuts off Goliath's head, right? We want this to remain a project where people can watch this with their children. That means at times there will be allusions to things like what David does to Goliath. We are taking a biblically accurate approach to it. And we're hopeful that the people understand that Goliath also represents God's enemies, that this act of removing the head is making a statement, right? And so we will not show Goliath having his head removed on camera, but you will know what's happening and you will see it on the reaction of the soldiers nearby. And so that's taking an element, like one of the really graphic parts of it. And so there is blood, there is grit, there is dirt, there is, I hope that people get a sense, even from the graphic that we did, there's some sweat here. This isn't a clean, powdered up, playing out in the field kind of version of David. There's going to be dirt on their faces. They're working. They're bathing maybe once every 2 weeks, to kind of put that into perspective. And so, excellent question. We're going to handle it as gracefully as possible, but we're also going to try to give an honest depiction of what life could have been like. I think it's a little dirty and a little messy at this time and in this place. And so, Caleb?
It's great. I'm just going to pray before we end really quickly, and then we will talk to you all very soon. If you will, please share, send this video, and we're going to be posting the graphic on both of our social channels right after this is over. So if you will share that, comment on it, let people know what you think about it. Greatly appreciate it. God, thank you for tonight and this time. For those who were able to check in and kind of hear some updates on this project, I pray that you would bless it, that it would be something that would glorify you ultimately. Mm-hmm. God, that we get to play a part in bringing this story to life. It is such an incredible gift and blessing. And we pray it would happen. We pray that you would provide the space and the ability, give us the determination to see this through, and let it be something that's favorable to your people. Your people would, I think, be glorified and represented well in this, God, as it brings you glory, because you are the King over it all. You're the one who set up this story from beginning to end, and we just want to tell it and do it in just an excellent fashion, as you are an excellent creator. Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys. Thanks for the support.
Have a great night.